Alright, let's get some gaming going, lads, right? Let's get some gaming going. I'm in the mood for a strive. Yeah, I'm in the mood for a strive. Let's get some strive going. I mean, it is what it is. It's the nature of strive, right? Super aggressive game, there's not much you can do about it, I suppose. You know what? Let's play some Street Fighter. Honest game, looking forward to it. It's gonna be class, it's gonna be fun. I know throw loops have already existed, but that was ridiculous. Was it fun? You know what? Maybe I need some honest Tekken in my life. Maybe that's all I need. Maybe that's it. If I could play some honest Tekken. Man, f this. What's up, fellas? Panda here, and today I want to do a discussion video. And again, I want to hear your thoughts on this specifically, because this doesn't just affect me, this affects everyone that plays fighting games. I want to hear your thoughts, either as someone who's still watched the video, or has watched it all the way through, or just partway want to give their opinion. Because right now, the state of fighting games affect both you and me. But yeah, the premise of today's video are fighting games getting too aggressive and too homogenized now. What does homogenizing mean? Well, it means that the cast is becoming a bit too bland or too samey. Not too much variation among the cast. And the best example of this I would usually refer to is something like Tekken Tag 2, where basically it doesn't really matter what your character does as long as they had good movement or a whiff punish game. That's all that really mattered. Tekken Tag wasn't really a poke game, and anybody that says so is on delirium. Yeah, what I mean by too aggressive, it's become a common trend. A lot of fighting games have been extremely aggressive since the launch of Strive, and yeah, it's progressively becoming the main theme of fighting games right now. They become more of a spectacle and more about power and holding on to offense. In today's video, I want to talk about different viewpoints, and I want to talk about some comparisons and kind of what games are really affected by it. Let me go into the three main games of today and how they've affected the industry in terms of aggression. Fighting games right now are going through a bit of an industrial change, if you think about it. A ton of fighting games are changing their formula to be more aggressive and homogenized, get more players in because they think it looks visually cooler. I think they've succeeded in doing this with Drive and Street Fighter, Heat and Tekken, and Strive's meter game with burst mechanics. This begs the question though, is that what fighting games really need right now? Making characters less unique and aggressive, I want to dive deep on how aggression in fighting games could lead to the homogenization of the genre. I will say, all these games, I want nothing but the best of them. As someone who grew up playing Tekken, as someone who grew up playing Street Fighter, and as someone who got into Strive 3 years ago, I want nothing but the best for these games. I want to get started today with a comparison between Tekken 7 and 8, a game that's going through a ton of issues right now, and kind of the main argument of today's video for why games should be less aggressive. Tekken has always been a game orientated on anything can happen in a fight. Neutral had no clear answers, and it was a difficult game to learn. Fighting games are also becoming easier to play, but that's a discussion for a different day. And personally, I couldn't really care, I just don't like it when fun legacy things are taken away, i.e. Karas. That's my opinion on it, but you know, that's a video for a different day. Neutral could be a game of whiff punishing, catching evasion, going for a mix-up, going for pressure, or going for interruptions. This goes for every fighting game, but in Tekken it's enhanced by the movement and tools available to every character. Your character has 80 moves, 100 moves, and some of them are built to have invasion, some of them are built to have sidestep into, and some of them are built to hop, right? There's a ton that you need to take in when you play these games when it comes to focusing on what your opponent can do, and that's why Tekken's a beautiful game. It's a game of knowledge and being well aware how to use that knowledge to minimize as much risk as possible. Let's look at a character that's both in Tekken 7 and 8 that isn't controversial right now to prove my point on the state of Tekken 8. In Tekken 7, Kazuya is a character that is based on getting his 50-50 vortex started. However, the mix-up can sadly lose to sidestepping. Kazuya can use down forward 2 and back 4 to check steps, but they have their weaknesses. back 4 being duckable, and down forward 2 being punishable on block. This leads to a tricky RPS for Kaz, who has to think outside the box to catch you for going for defensive plays, with realigning or delaying to catch obvious defense patterns. So in Tekken 7, Kazuya required a good bit of brain power running his offense. People tend to think of him as just the 50-50 Vortex Master, but at the end of the day, it wasn't that cut and dry. However, in Tekken 8, things changed with the new move he was given, which is just a now standing mid-tracking tool. But yeah, you're probably wondering what's my issue with it. Well, it's long reaching, in devil mode it's safe, and in normal mode it's only -8. Right? It's safe and it only gives away a turn, but because of the reach it's not that easy to take your turn. But because this tool is safe, long reaching, and a tracking mid, it gets rid of his weakness of being committal on offense. What do I mean by that? Well, down forward 2 and back 4 were tricky RPS tools that you had to use to call out stepping and staying safe, but at the end of the day, they were committal. If they were blocked or ducked, you were punished, but in this case, that's not doable, right? If you do this tool setup as a meaty, it doesn't matter. You're gonna hit them if they do anything, and if they don't do anything, you're safe. It lowers the risk into playing Kazuya, who's built to be a very committal character. And this of course goes to the same options like 4 forward 2, for example, another tool that makes Kazuya extremely safe. And the other thing as well, it makes it so you lose out on a skill, which is learning how to do while rising 1+2, aka Kazuya's Yurakin. This was a skill that Kazuya mains had to learn, that way they could do twin pistons as a safer mid-mix, and to use Yurakin as a very safe mid-tracking tool. So at the end of the day, when it came to playing Kaz, it was about learning these key fundamental skills to do that, but considering this tool comes from standing, it means there's no execution needed whatsoever, and you're safer, and you reach further, and in Devil you're only -4, and on hit you deal a ton of damage. And this continues to be bad, because down forward 2 is now regulated to being a frame trap tool off of down back 4 or forward 4. Which is a massive shame, because this tool was kind of like multi-purpose. Now its one purpose is only for calling out frame traps. It kind of homogenized this toolkit, meaning that other tools lost a lot of their purpose, and this one is just kind of became the de facto go-to to be safe. And in tournament play, being safe is all that really matters. So at the end of the day, Kazuya's may look less cooler when it comes to doing their offense. They may still do 50-50 Vortex, and they may still try to set up their neutral in a weird way. But at the end of the day, when you get offense going, it's a lot less cut and dry, right? It's a lot more just do it. It's just there, you've got your answer. Now you're probably wondering, why bring up Kazuya? I want to bring the point that Kazuya is not a top 5 contender in Tekken 8. He's far from it. So if he's doing all this, and he's getting a little bit more homogenized as a character besides his Mishima-like playstyle, what does that mean for everybody else? Jack, who went from a heavily poke-based character that wanted to threaten a ton of lows and a ton of mid-mixes, is now just a gorilla. He's a gorilla character. Like, if you played Jack back in Tekken 7 and Tekken 6, he was actually a bit of a big brain character where you had to threaten your pokes well enough, and you had to threaten your mids well enough, and then sometimes you'd threaten throw to give the opponent the idea that they should duck more, i.e. you're gonna get launched. So Jack was a bit of a big brain character back in those games, despite being such a powerful character. In Tekken 8, he's just a straight up gorilla that's powerful, so you've kind of taken away the player's skill and expression from using his really good pokes to just 2-1 feints. That's all your entire offense is, and it kind of looks like an anime fighter without any of the anime fighter mechanics. So what I'm thinking, King, Jack, and Leo are doing this while being plus, unlike Kazuya, who's at least still negative. This is something I want you guys to think about. There's mid-tracking tools that they have now that is just safe and plus, and that is not the name of Tekken. When it comes to Tekken, if you have a safe mid-tracking tool, it's because it comes out in 24 frames or some really ridiculous timing. Yeah, this is ridiculous. I have no idea how Tekken made these balance decisions that are just bad for the health of the character identity and the competitive scene. I know this is being addressed by the Tekken devs, but Tekken has a phrase that's unique to it, and this is something that I find very important about Tekken. It's small Tekken. One of my mates brought this up to me and I realised that he's absolutely right. Small Tekken is a massive core part of Tekken where two players will go back and forth threatening small pokes here and there, not wanting to be overcommittal, kind of like a dance, almost like you're watching a choreography dance or you're watching a martial arts movie, right? They're not constantly doing backflips in martial arts movies, they're going back and forth tit for tat. That's what makes small Tekken beautiful. Or if someone's just absolutely dominating through pokes and pressure, and the other one is having to defend it all, waiting for his opportunity to strike back. Again, small Tekken. However, with these changes and what they've done to Leo, King, Jack, Paul, you name it, it's not small Tekken anymore. It's constant, explosive Tekken. It's big Tekken. It's big damage, it's big pressure, and it doesn't stop. And my problem is, a lot of people that were spectators loved small Tekken because they felt like they were watching a martial art movie or some type of like choreography dance. But in this type of case, you're giving the players too much spectacular stuff to watch. Small Tekken made it so whenever a launch did happen, it was impressive. It was constant small Tekken to mess with the opponent, and then big Tekken would happen out of nowhere. And that would get the spectators' adrenaline pumping. But if you have constant big Tekken, it is hard to keep the adrenaline pumping because those 1 in a million plays that happen are happening a ton more. In my opinion, I feel like constantly giving these bigger moments in Tekken 8 makes the dopamine receptors a bit dull, because at the end of the day you're watching it, you're enjoying the show, but like nothing's that different, and a lot of playstyles are getting very homogenized, and that is the sad thing with aggressiveness in fighting games. But yeah, I want to move on to Street Fighter now and how it manages aggression and doesn't homogenize. I feel like Street Fighter is a good example of aggression very well done in the modern era. It's a neutral game as everyone refers to it as. In Street Fighter V, the game was very slow to watch and was controversial due to the fact of how ugly it was and how accessible it became to players. Besides that, it kept the core of Street Fighter's neutral, being between whip punishing, jumping, preemptive pokes, and dash checks. If you want to run pressure, you have to get through the wall of defense presented to you. Knowing you can be antied on any interaction is a scary thought, as that allows your opponent to run offense. This could lead to a game of chicken. Who was going to break the patience? Will it be a fireball, a crouching medium kick, a well-timed parry, a jump, or will it be a well-spaced special? That was great about Street Fighter V. Watching it was still very fun to watch if you liked a good bit of neutral Street Fighter. Throw loops existed in that game as they do in Street Fighter 6, but they didn't happen as often because the corner didn't appear as often as it does in Street Fighter 6. But all these premises carry over to Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6 doesn't have an issue of being homogenized. A lot of its characters have defining traits that make them stand out. But it has a problem with drive usage and throw loops. Being able to make that crouching medium kick safe and an offensive tool with a drive rush removes the danger of threatening this poke when it's blocked or misspaced. Turning any normal into instant pressure leads into his next issue, which is throw looping, right? Throw looping has existed in so many Street Fighters. It has existed in 5, 3, 4, you name it. But the thing that makes it an issue in Street Fighter 6 is because it's going to happen more often because of drive mechanics. Drive allows you to get in to do a meaty throw. Drive allows you to take a corner combo very easily to threaten throw loops in the corner. It means less nooch and more RPS situations are bound to happen because of it. This is Street Fighter's attempt at being aggressive, and I actually don't mind it much. Can it be difficult watching someone get throw looped more? Yes, but at the end of the day, there was probably some well-placed neutral that led to that point. As much as a crouching medium kick into drive rush can be an issue and can be very annoying, at the end of the day, it was well put because it was blocked in the first place or hit in the first place. Unlike a whiffed one that can be punished, which is still classic Street Fighter in my mind. Again, I think Street Fighter is fine, but it needs character tuning, and that's about it. Maybe some toned down, maybe some toned up. But at the end of the day, Street Fighter is Street Fighter, right? It's still the game that you love and play. It's just that some checkmate scenarios are very brutal in that game, and that's my only issue. That's why I stopped playing it. I didn't like getting drive impacted when I ran out of drive because I played Marissa, who constantly used drive. But the next game I want to get into is that its game's aggression was very well done, and it didn't have any homogenization issues at all on launch. It just had one big issue, and that was what happened after launch, being Guilty Gear Strive. Strive is interesting. This game kind of revolutionized fighting games with rollback and becoming more accessible. There's no doubt about it, you wouldn't have rollback at the level it is right now if Strive didn't exist. And I feel like a lot of people forget how much Strive is really given to the fighting game community. because of its recent reputation of making mistakes. Strive did an amazing job. It reinvented the franchise while keeping most of its key mechanics. Again, they told you straight up that this wasn't going to be XR. They told you straight up it wasn't going to be like the previous games. So I don't think it's fair to compare Strive to the previous games, although it keeps its characters and mechanics. Times changed when Season 3 attacked. When that dropped, it dropped to the weirdest mechanics that Strive didn't need, being Wild Assault and Deflect Shield. Deflect Shield was a pretty okay mechanic to drop. Honestly, I think it's got a good inclusion. It does affect a couple of characters in the roster like Melia or anybody that does a guard crush really heavily. But Wild Assault was the issue. Season 3 launch Wild Assault made it so Oki was the name of the game. You'd get a wall combo, then you'd do Wild Assault for a hard knockdown. If you're playing Gold Wish, you do Wild Assault in neutral. Why? Because it was plus on block and was invincible. It was a winning tool. It had no issues, and then it kept getting nerfed. And then we got to Season 3.75, where White Wild Assault was no longer plus, but let you skip neutral, so it wasn't that bad. Orange Wild Assault and Blue Wild Assault. Then all the Wild Assaults didn't give the hard knockdown when you broke the wall, which was awesome. That's exactly what we wanted. But Orange Wild Assault had no weaknesses whatsoever, as it allowed for guaranteed pressure, allowing a character like Johnny, who was kind of mid, but it didn't matter because Orange Wild Assault existed. And then afterwards it became busted in Season 4 and Season 3.75. And then Season 4 dumbed down the characters, hard buffing a ton of characters to be more aggressive, leading to where we are now, where Strive isn't homogenized, but it led to a game being RP as central as it is now. Strive's issues come from mechanics they added that just wasn't needed. Now we're stuck with it in the team's attempts to balance it. The game was fine in 3.75 with Wild Assault being the main issue. I wonder what type of timeline we'd be in if that mechanic never showed up. But yeah, Strive's problem right now is that it's too aggressive because Wild Assault allows for so much guaranteed pressure with none of the downsides. And it's hard to balance because it uses half a bar of burst. It has to be strong because it uses half a bar of burst. But if you make it weak, it means no one will use the mechanic, which is what the devs don't want. They want you to use the mechanic because it's a mechanic they put time into to work into Strive, and it doesn't work in Strive. So Strive's issue is that you have to take a ton of guaranteed pressure from a /poke. Strive, it didn't homogenize, which is awesome. Our characters are unique, our characters are cool. But it became too aggressive, and a ton of people don't want to play the game because of that, and because they dumbed down so many things for Strive, which was already a simple game. It killed so much interest that when Venom came back, who required a ton of skill and legacy skills in general, the player base spiked. We went from 1,000 to 3,000. That is 200% increase. If you don't realize how insane that is insane for a character coming back that offers execution. Makes you think, doesn't it? Because they didn't drop a balance patch with it, you can't even make the argument of mechanics got stronger or weaker, right? You can only make the argument as Venom showed up. Strive's issue is just aggression. Tekken's issue is homogenization and aggression. And Street Fighter's issue is just throw loops, but that's always existed, just because of the nature of Street Fighter. Fighting games are getting more aggressive, and in my opinion, I don't mind it as much. But I feel like we need to take away more of the guaranteed situations and tools that just do everything, right? Should Potemkin Buster be a reversal that has armor, that comes in 5 frame, give Oki and do 40%? You know, it's like, that's the questions I think's going on. Should Jin have Naruto combos? No, he shouldn't have Naruto combos. That's my problem. I feel like one game that's done their best to not homogenize and try to tone down on the aggression is Fatal Fury. City of the Wolves. It is a game that encourages really good defensive plays, unironically. More games can just kind of chill a little bit and encourage more great defensive plays rather than like allowing for aggression. It'd probably be for the best, because right now we're living in an era of fighting games where a ton of people are getting sick of being throw looped. A ton of people are getting sick of the devs, so much so 3,000 have decided to boycott Tekken 8, which is insane, by the way. It's the nature of the game, there's not a whole lot that we can do. And you know what, it's a fun discussion piece, and I want to know if you think fighting games are getting too aggressive, and if so, I want you to tell me yes, and why you agree with me, And I want you to tell me no and why you disagree with me. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, I hope you guys liked and subscribed, all that good stuff. But this was a video that I had to get off my chest because I feel like fighting games are being changed and I'm not sure if they're for the best. For example, I'm not touching Tekken 8 ever again because of these changes. Being real, I don't want to play that game anymore. It's upsetting. In Guilty Gear Strive, I'm starting to lose interest. Fatal Fury is around the corner and I can't wait for it, even though it has some controversies of its own. Salvatore not so much, but Mr. 375k, yeah, definitely. Yeah, peace out fellas, have a good one. See ya.